Kalimera, kalispera, kalinichta. No matter where in this wild, wacky, and sometimes wonderful world you might be, thank you for making the Highbury Squad part of your day. I'm sure most of you woke up, well, not where I was, 4:30 in the morning to watch the Gunners and the Hong Kong North London derby. No matter what, we've got one of our favourites back to talk us through this and our subject of the day.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.
Thank you to everyone for joining. Apologies for the time change. We're going half an hour earlier. And to those listening on our audio platforms on Apple and Spotify, thank you so much for subscribing. We're growing on the old audio platform and we're very proud of that. And thank you also to our brand new subscribers. We are very close to 20,000 now here on the old YouTube and very proud of that too. And I'm also proud to have this guy back. He's one of my favorite football talkers and humans.
Football talkers, I like it.
Pedro
Football
from
talker, Pedro.
The Arsenal Opinion Pod. At ease, mate. How you doing?
I am absolutely fantastic. I'm excited to talk today. Bit of a weird one today. I don't like playing rival teams in preseason, so I'm feeling a little bit whiny about the whole thing, to be honest.
Yeah, me too. And by the way, I deliberately wore this shirt to annoy the squaddies. I've just realized now we're live. It's totally gone psychedelic. So enjoy that. I also feel like I look like the guy. What's the official name, Pedro, for the driver of the gondolas? What do they call those? They're so talented, by the way. I feel like one of those today. But anyway,
good look.
Squaddies, please hit the like button. Listen to our Chief Like Officer, Tammy Steels. And we do start, before we get to our main subject here with Pedro, in Hong Kong. One of the things I was really happy about in terms of that game was the fans. The fans, other than American fans, got to see their beloved Gunners. They absolutely packed out the stadium. Arsenal dominated it. But in the end, they didn't dominate. Did they dominated the game? I don't know what they did. But this was the starting lineup in Hong Kong. David Raya, White, Saliba, Kivior, Lewis Skelly, Norgaard, Rice, Odegaard, Saka, Martinelli, and Havertz. It wasn't good, was it?
It was like a selects of all the worst things that we didn't enjoy about Arsenal last season. Stodgy, not particularly creative, not particularly ambitious. Like, you couldn't really call it a terrible performance by any stretch, but you also couldn't call it a great one. And I think my biggest takeaway, and it's, we're only a few games into preseason, so can't be too harsh on it, but there's not an evolution there. There's not like the next phase. I thought that preseason was going to be trying new things, but it just felt a little bit same old to me. So disappointed with the result. 16 shots, 1 on target. Story of last season, really.
Were you surprised? I wasn't surprised that Gyökeres didn't start, but I was surprised about the amount of time he got. He seems to be a guy who's lean and fit, and yes, he hasn't played a lot of football lately, but I would have liked to have seen him get an entire half, Pedro. I don't know if you agree or disagree with that. He also seems to me like the type of guy who's maybe going to need more than 10 minutes. I don't know what the stats are in terms of, him scoring late goals. If he comes off the bench, he mostly started for Sporting, but he seems to me like the kind of guy that needs to really build into a game. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it almost felt pointless bringing him on so late in the game. I was hoping, big fancy new striker, record shirt seller. I was kind of hoping that he would get 60 minutes to start his career so he could make an impact. Coming on against Spurs, no shots, minimal touches. Didn't really feel like the explosive start that we were hoping for. I'm guessing MIKEL Arteta was thinking more about, wouldn't it be an incredible story arc that he starts, scores a goal against Spurs on a tour, and then it sets the world alight. I think I'm sort of coming to terms with the start of the season probably being a bit more Kai Havertz. I don't think he's going to be ready for Arteta's tactics. I don't think he'll be bedded into the team. I think he'll probably start as a bench player early on in the season. But yeah, a bit of a wet fish of a debut. If we're totally honest, there, not his fault though. Not his fault either.
No, I agree. Not his fault at all. And we're going to get stuck into who starts and who sits in just a second. A bright spark for me was definitely Norgaard. Surprised that he started over Zubimendi, but I guess once again, ingraining him in the team, getting used to tactics. Felt like he showed the leadership skills Natalie Sawyer told us about at Brentford. Played fearless, wasn't weighted down by the badge and the shirt at all. Got into the referee's face, Pedro, which I absolutely loved, and put himself about a bit. And I felt that whenever he did get the ball, he only passed sideways or backwards if there was absolutely no option. But he really did try to progress the ball in that first half. Your thoughts?
He's like a Zubimendi light. I think if we're being generous, I think we're going to have difficulty this season if Zubimendi gets injured. I know that everybody loves Norgaard's statistics, but he's not at the level. I don't think he's at the level of a Jorginho or a Thomas Partey playing at his best. So my hope is that he's playing, maybe 20 games this season, and that he's reserved for teams down the lower rungs of the table, because I don't know. I didn't enjoy the performance as much as everybody else seems to have. I think he's a very able player, but if we're too much this season, I don't think we're winning the Premier League if he's starting 45 games. Put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I think he's going to be a really good squad player. And when you look at our bench last season, especially after the injuries, we just had the thinnest squad ever, and it was kind of pathetic in terms of our preparedness to have backup players. Were you surprised that Bukayo Saka played 80 minutes? I was yelling at my TV at like 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, why is he still playing? Why is he still on the pitch? By the way, if you can guess whose legs those are, it's pretty easy. Maybe I'll send you a coin. But jokes aside, why is he playing 80 minutes in a preseason game? And he was Spurs were very physical with Bukayo.
This is the biggest question that we have going into next season. Did MIKEL ARTETA learn anything about load management and how he treats his very best players? And then when you see Bukayo Saka holding his leg late on, it's like, I don't know. Are we just going to be going into this season hoping that he breaks less players than he did last season? That doesn't feel very strategic to me, and it doesn't feel like we've moved on. Bukayo Saka has come back from his holidays, and he clearly didn't do a lot of work in his holidays, which is a good thing. You want him well rested. But if he's unfit, don't flog him early on in the season. And getting injuries in preseason, I mean, if you've got to pray that it's not a big problem, because we're going to set ourselves back. We need to be starting that Man United game, flying out the traps, fit players, hungry players, people ready to go. Seeing him hobbling around so early on doesn't bode well for our season. So hopefully he's just managing his fitness, and Arsenal are just managing him.
Okay, so let's get to the conversation that kind of bleeds into a little bit about what we saw today. I'm trying not to read too much into it. Spurs, of course, are making big deals out of it, including their Bush League player, Richie, as they like to call him, posting a picture online of him with the Player of the Match award, in addition to tagging Big Gabby. And Big Gabby hits right back and says, and shows him his 3 Man of the Match awards from the North London derby, where it counts. 369 points right there. But I kind of love the banter. We talk about players being boring, but I loved it. So I want to start going back to front with you, because in that game we saw what I thought was a daft pass to Lewis Skelly. I thought Lewis Skelly showed something that he showed in a few games last season, in the sense that good decision making on the ball. Some would call that a foul. I didn't think it was a foul, to be honest with you. But the pass from David Raya was poor. His positioning has scared as much as he has saved us, and was one of our best plays in the early part of last season, Pedro. I thought it was embarrassing. I thought it was really, I know it was preseason, but I thought that was embarrassing. Kepa, who I think is underrated, has been a really good Premier League goalkeeper. I'm not calling for Kepa to start over David Raya, but David Raya is not immune to criticism, Pedro.
No, I thought he was very shaky. I was also interested, I don't know what your take on it is. He spent a lot of time with Thomas Frank, many years with Thomas Frank. And Thomas Frank's strategy was that Aaron Ramsdale strategy that everybody had against us. Just put it over his head towards the back post, make him flap. And he's quite an unflappable goalkeeper. I think David Raya is one of our better players. And if there is a position on the pitch, especially playing for Arsenal, that you do need a preseason to get back into the swing of things, it's probably the goalkeeper. You've got to get your ranges right. You've got to work out your passing. Like he's playing Hollywood passes all game. And he looked a little bit rough out there. I think the one interesting point about this is we have started to see people take long shots against Raya because he pushes so far up. So the question is, will his confidence be affected by that? Will he start to back up a little bit? Will he second guess himself? My gut says no. I think he's the best goalkeeper in the Premier League. I think that you just have to cost in getting done like that. And hopefully that's got that out of the system. That's it for the rest of the season. And that we don't see any more of that because it's a bit embarrassing when you get lobbed from that far out. It's a little bit embarrassing. But yeah, the passing wasn't quite there. And I haven't felt he's been at his peak so far. But it's all fine if it's in the preseason.
Exactly. Maybe it's the new haircut. I'm not sure about that. It reminds me of like an 80s cartoon character. It's a bit dodgy. I like the old haircut. In front of him, Pedro, are some fine players. And we have seen a very, very good, I think, Benjamin White this preseason. One of the good stories, I believe. Towards the end of that game, he was really wasteful with a couple of crosses, but he looked absolutely exhausted. No excuse, but does play a part. He didn't play hardly any football last season. Timber at the back is, I think, a superior player. Going forward, I like the relationship between White and Saka. And then you add into the mix, Calafiori is pretty injury prone, we've seen, once again injured. And you, of course, have Miles Lewis-Skelly as well, who had an amazing season last season. How do you see it shaping up back there? I was having a conversation with Kenny yesterday and Albert, and was saying I could see a scenario where maybe it's White, Saliba, Gabriel, and Timber, and Lewis-Skelly doesn't play as much as he did last season, but of course is hugely valuable to the squad. What's your take?
I'm a little bit worried about Miles. I don't want to bag on a teenager. I'm not bagging on a teenager. My concern is that first season, no expectations. Roll into the team, be brave, pull up trees. And that's what he did. His first season for Arsenal was exceptional. I was on the podcast earlier with Matt Candela, and he was like, he's probably not going to have a season that good this year because he didn't put a foot wrong. He was incredible. Now I don't think he's been sussed, but I can't remember whether it was Gary Neville. One of the players was talking about. So the thing with the Premier League is you can have one good season, like he was talking about strikers. It's like, but then people work out your patterns. And the second season's always more difficult. And he was talking about Thierry. He was like, Thierry Henry didn't have patterns. He could go left, he could go right, he could go over the top, he could beat you for pace, he could catch you in tight spots. Miles has not been sussed, but it does feel like people know what he's about now. And now he's got to change it up. Now he's got to work out what's the evolution. It's like Bukayo Saka. He has to work out how to deal with being trebled up on. Miles is in the upper echelons of left backs in the Premier League, and he's got to develop his game, and he's can't make mistakes, and he's going to get pressed in midfield, and people are going to be getting at him all season. And my big worry is the backup for him is Calafiori, and the guy can't stay fit for more than a game at a time. And then you're talking about, well, if Miles goes through the usual dip, players under the age of 23 go through ups and downs. It's what happens. Who comes in for him? Is it Timber coming across? I don't know whether that's ideal. And I look at Jarell Hato going from Ajax to Chelsea, and I'm like, that felt like the guy. 35, 40 million pounds. And I also think the other thing with teenagers is you do want them to have competition for their places, and it doesn't really feel like he's got competition out there. I don't know. What do you think? How are you seeing this situation?
I agree with you, and I was thinking about this a lot yesterday, and maybe partly because of the Hato deal that went through as well. Zinchenko's going to go. Calafiori, you cannot rely on. Let's be honest, Timber has missed a ton of football since he's joined the club. And he needs protection too. He's brilliant. To me, if Timber's fit, he starts on the left and Ben White starts on the right. I think that's because with Timber and Miles Lewis-Skelly, although Lewis-Skelly likes to charge forward, don't think there's too much of a difference in them in going forward. And right now, as we're trying to kind of like rebuild that forward line, you need that stability at the back. And for me, Lewis-Skelly is the perfect guy to come on when someone's been running for like 65 minutes. And then, of course, rotation, right? You want to keep him fit too. You don't want to burn him out. Look what we've kind of done to Saka. I want to protect Lewis-Skelly. I'm not talking about him being, not a great player, because he is. But for the reasons you said, and for trying to protect him and not see him in a situation like Saka or Timber or Havertz last season or Martinelli or Big Gabby, I think we need to be really, really careful with him. And that left side kind of worries me a little bit, because if Tomiyasu's gone, Kivior could play there. Yes, we're still not sure if Kivior's staying or going. It looks like he might be staying. It's a bit of a concern with Calafiori being injured and Timber not being fit and available, Pedro. It's concerning. So, I'm I don't want to say we should buy left back, because I think that would send people to the moon. But do we need to buy a left back?
We do. I do think we need to have a left back. What's the biggest lessons that we've learned during the Arteta regime? That he breaks fullbacks on the regular. Doesn't matter how robust you are. Once you come into a MIKEL Arteta system, you are gonna be put under a lot of pressure. And these guys have really difficult jobs, up and down, loads of sprinting, loads of intensity, dropping into central midfield. And they break. Like, Ben White was an incredibly robust player before he came to Arsenal. And now I wouldn't say he's fragile, but he's had a few injuries that sort of give you a little bit of cause for concern. It feels like, 40 games out of him in the season would be good this year. And we need cover. But really, so when you've got a lot of teenagers in your squad, you need cover for their form, because things will dip for them. Timber is interesting, because I thought Timber would end up being first choice left back last season. I didn't think that Calafiori was going to last there, and I was wrong on that front on multiple levels. But Timber is one of the best defenders in any position, across all of the positions. You can play centre back, left back, right back. And I do like having Ben White in the side. So maybe that is the rotation option, and maybe the unpredictability of the back line. Like, it's a very complete back line if you just add one more body into it. So I wonder whether we'll try and get like a cut price deal on a left back, just to give us a bit of cover, one extra body. And MIKEL Arteta cannot go a summer without signing a left back. Is his real weakness. He's a left back addict.
I know it's too soon. And, we did a show with Kevin Hatchard, and he talked about Mascara in a little bit more depth and detail. And we kind of went through kind of how many starts that he's had, most appearances of any player in all the leagues in Europe under the age of 21. And damn, I deleted that image of where he starts mostly on the pitch, but I know you're well versed here, Pedro. He looked really good when he came on. This is his interceptions when an opponent dribbles, again, top of the tree. I thought that, of course, it's a preseason against friendly. It's funny, isn't it? It's like at the beginning of the match, it's like it's never a friendly against Tottenham. And then at the end of the match, a lot of Arsenal fans are like, well, it's only a friendly. But I thought Mascara looked good. You're not going to be able to break that partnership of Saliba and Gabriel. Versatility-wise, is he someone that can step in? Do you see him getting his shot this season maybe in the Champions League and in certain Premier League games?
I think he has to. Mascara's the succession plan in defence. He's very young. He's got great build. He looked very, very happy to be at Arsenal in the reveal video. Brought lots of people from his family down. I think this is finally a viable option for Arteta to rotate Saliba and Gabriel. Like Saliba and Gabriel just don't get rested, and
Mm-hmm.
Big Gabs, again, another really, really robust player for Arsenal, and his hamstring exploded last year. We're not going to win the Premier League if Saliba and Gabriel don't get a rest this year, because one of them is going to get injured, and then it's going to cost us in big games. So hopefully Mascara is finally a player that Arteta trusts. I think it would be difficult for him. It's always difficult adapting from the Spanish league, but we don't need him in the starting 11 straight away. But he should be playing all of the cup games. He should be playing against, some of the teams that are a little bit lower in the league, and he should be getting minutes because his potential seems to be sky high. I can't believe that we picked him up for what, 15 million euro?
Yeah.
Absolutely unbelievable deal, especially considering the first choice was Dean Huijsen, who went to Madrid for 52 million. So this could be a sleeper hit this year. But again, it's like Arteta has to push back on the fear that he has about rotation. Arteta rotates when he has to, not when he needs to. And I think if we want to get the best out of this kid, he's got to get minutes, even if it's at the expense of an odd goal here and there, because the quicker we can get him up to speed, the less likely a bad injury to one of our two main guys is going to hurt us.
I totally agree with that. Protect those two at all costs. And you're right. We don't win anything if those two aren't fit and they don't get a rest. And I'm just going to lean into this as we get to the midfield and the attack, because I'm trying not to get too critical and dive in just because, and I think it's just because it was Tottenham. If that was any other team today, I don't think it would bother me as much. I don't ever want to lose to them ever, even if it's their under 18s team.
Yeah.
But you talked about this at the top, and you've mentioned the load management. And you just said something really poignant. Arteta only makes changes if he has to. And has he learned any lessons? And so you look at the captain, who I thought for the first 20, 25 minutes was our best player. He looked hungry. He was passing through the lines. He was taking some shots. He looked really, really good. Then I look at the fact that, Max Dowman, who's 15, is getting more opportunities on this tour than Waneri, who just signed a new contract and is of age now and can play across the board. I thought Declan Rice today was anonymous. I didn't even know he started playing on the left at the beginning. Maybe I was reading that wrong. I'm like, what's he doing over there? It felt weird, right?
Yeah.
Then you had Martinelli, who came on, who started, who just looked the same, cut and paste. I've defended him to the hilt, but I'm starting to ask, is it time to cash in? Trossard comes on, looks super lively again, and then tweaks something and goes off. And then Saka, who has been our most important player for at least 3 seasons now. And I was complimenting him the other day, saying, I'm trying to compare him to Martinelli in the sense that so much good happens on the right, too much happens on the right.
Yes, agree.
And Saka is predictable, but in his predictability, he's so smart. The way he moves, the way he adjusts, the way he touches the ball, the way he takes on players, which is what doesn't happen on the left. But I thought, then I started watching some tape from last season, and I was like, I'm afraid he's becoming predictably predictable. So I'm trying to think, Pedro, what I'm trying to say is MIKEL Arteta adaptable? Because these players to me seem exceptionally stifled, and in a game that was absolutely packed, right? Packed to the rafters. All I could hear was MIKEL Arteta's name, a voice screaming at players. The usual kind of behavior on the sidelines. Is he adaptable? And can he unleash that creativity that saw us do so well in 22, 23, 23, 24?
He's got to. He's got to. It's very easy to get bent out of shape with preseason games. But I saw Aston Villa play last night. I watched them play. And Aston Villa, exceptionally athletic side. When you are down by touchline and you see Aston Villa players, you're like, wow, they're athletes. Onana, Jesus, my word, he's a big athlete. But their whole side are huge, and they were struggling a little bit. They didn't play with the same sort of zip and intensity. So I think one, they're all getting up to fitness. Whatever they do, double sessions. Number two, they're playing in a really hot and muggy country. So the sort of the dip plus the fatigue. But then number three, we've gone on, we're off the back of a low scoring season, but the 2 seasons prior, it was like 88 and 91 goals. So with the squad and those players that we had out there today, we've got goal scorers. We have to unleash it. It can't just be, we've got to wait for the new signings to bed in. Like, that might not happen. Like we have to be title contenders from game day one. We've signed a slightly older group of players. Our striker is 27 years old. We have to be at it from the off. But I feel you. The way that we moved the ball around, it felt sluggish. Our attacking mix just looks the same. Sweep the ball around, try and get in behind occasionally. It didn't really feel explosive. And I just think back to, what the biggest complaint about Arsenal fans last year is, like, you can play with control and score lots of goals and be exciting. Liverpool, they were exciting, counter-attack inside, but they're also exciting in a deep block. The passing was quick, crisp, a lot of skill was on show. They take a pop. I just watched that performance today, and you're like, one shot on target against Spurs, one of the leakiest teams in the Premier League. They're only a few games in under Thomas Frank. One shot on target. Is that where we are? It can get better. Gyökeres will hopefully make a bit of a difference, but I don't know. I was hoping to see a bit more of an evolution of the system with the new players, but it hasn't come yet. Doesn't mean it's not coming, though.
No, but that's where you should see something in pre-season, because it's the perfect time for managers to experiment and try things out. I saw something different in Tottenham. Look, and again, please don't take this the wrong way if you're listening on replay here, which many of you will be. I'm not saying like Arteta out. No, I'm talking about if you want to win the Premier League or the Champions League, you have to evolve, right? Even in our own jobs, if we want more money, if we want to get promoted, we've got to evolve in our positions. Tottenham looked like a totally different entity. I know it's just pre-season, but you could see front to back, unit to unit, they looked organized, they looked cohesive, and they were playing like a team. I haven't seen that since probably the way they played against Man United in the Europa League final was one of their most cohesive performances, right? We looked like none of that. And of course, maybe you need Big Gabby next to Saliba. You need Zubimendi with, Declan Rice and Odegaard. You don't need to be putting square pegs in round holes. Why is Declan playing so far on the left? To me, it felt like, is this the team he wants to start against Man United? Barring Norgaard, right? And barring Kivior, is this the team that he wants to start against Manchester United? There was no growth in that performance today. None. And this from Troy, Arteta sees football mechanically. He doesn't think about the creativity and spontaneity, which is why the forwards struggle. And Demsek is talking about when the left back inverts and the left eight is box to box, the left wing will be ineffective. I mean, there's lots of different comments like this. Our listeners are not over the top listeners. But I believe, Pedro, you have to see some type of evolution in a pre-season when you're experimenting, especially when you have new players.
I can't disagree with you there. I'm not really sure what the plan is going into next season, but it looks like same thing with more fit players so far. Listen, that system was pretty watertight last year in the main. Best defense in the Premier League. You don't want to totally break that up. But you've also got to be like, I was hoping for a little bit more from the players as well. And again, it's early, they're unfit. But you're like, the players take a lot of responsibility. The system is good. Arteta coaches wins. But should the players be taking more chances? Should the players say, hey, we're a top 5 team on the planet, objectively? should we be doing better than 16 shots, 1 on target in a game? I think they should be. And, Martinelli hasn't showered himself in glory so far. Saka looks unfit. Now he looks injured. And we've totally rebooted our midfield. So we shouldn't expect that to be great. But I am confident that, they're flying back to England pretty soon. The next 2 preseason games are at home in front of a London crowd. I don't know what the weather's like in the UK at the moment, but it's probably not as muggy as it is in Hong Kong. And then hopefully against Villarreal and Athletic Club, we start to see a bit more progress. We start to get a few more players in the mix. It's also tough as well. I feel like the two of the most important players that we needed last season are back up to Bukayo Saka. And if we're lucky, we'll see Madueke on the bench for Emirates Cup. He's not going to be fit for the start of the season. And I really think the most important player that I had, bar a striker, was somebody playing on the left side, because I just don't think Trossard and Martinelli are cutting it. And this is the deal that we're taking right down to the wire. Like, I really felt like having an Eze in the mixer right now, or Rodrygo in the mixer, that's really additive. Like, those 2 players change you. You can play a different way. And Eze can play all across the front line. Like, he has that spark. Arsenal felt stodgy today. And we felt stodgy. I don't know. Is it unfair, Soph, to say 75% of last season felt stodgy?
No, I don't think it's unfair.
Bland.
I don't think it's unfair at all. And I think you're right, which is, I'm like, this is one of the questions. Have we lost our popcorn football? Yes. Do we have enough elite players? Probably not. Do we have enough game changers? Probably not. However, Madueke, I feel like I'm kind of excited about the prospect of him providing competition for Saka, being an answer on the left. I do not like the fans that poo-pooed this signing at all. I'm 100% behind this. I think this kid, Henry Winter, was telling us that he's been working with his skills coach all summer. Tuchel loves him, his maturity, spent a lot of time with him when he's been covering England. He really rates Madueke. I think we're selling the wrong player. I think Trossard offers so much more than Martinelli has in the last 2 seasons. And if I remember correctly, a lot of pundits and podcasters and fans were talking about how Trossard was our most clinical finisher, and I agree with you. I think Eze provides something totally different, really exciting. And we need Rodrygo's like a Sanchez signing, and Eze's like that marquee English player signing, that you steal from another London club, and he comes in and he's ready-made for the league. Pedro, as good as our window's been, right? We haven't seen Zubimendi, brilliant. So when you look at the side and how it might look, you got Zubimendi, Madueke fit, the bench is stronger, it's okay. But in terms of taking us across the line to win the big one, I think we need 2 more game changers.
This is the thing, though. And people get upset in the euphoria of spending money. People lose their minds. They're like, Berta, 4D chess, this guy's incredible. But you've said you've enjoyed this window, but you've just said up until now, not enough game changers.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, well, how good is the window? And there's a lot of hope and a lot of gamble in this window. I always, I've got a lot of Chelsea fans. When we sold Kai Havertz, they were like, yeah, we love Kai Havertz. You're going to like him. When we got Madueke, they were like, yeah, happy to see him go. He's not the best to have in the dressing room. So I don't know where that one's going to go. But Chelsea got rid of him for Jamie Gittins. And Jamie Gittins, it's exploded onto the scene at the start of last year. But I work with a Dortmund fan. He's like, the back end, it wasn't good. It really wasn't good. They're like, he's got a lot of work to do to get up to the level. So Madueke sits behind Bukayo Saka, unless we're playing him on the left, which I'm not sure about. Gyökeres, a lot of hope. Like, I like him. I saw that goal that he scored in training, but he's probably the 3rd or 4th striker for most people. Like, a lot's got to work for that to bang. So there's a lot of hope in all these signings. But if you get an Eze or a Rodrygo, it takes the summer from a 7.5 to probably an 8.5, because he is what we lack. The rest of the players sort of play in robotic mechanical systems and do robotic mechanical things. Gyökeres is like, he's not this complete striker. He's a robot. He's a mini Haaland. He's just a battering ram, hard runner. Eze's not that. He's Alexis Sanchez for Arsenal. I think Rodrygo, like I'm a bit concerned that it seems almost nobody is interested in his signature at the moment. And I think sometimes when big players like Osimhen, they do big things for their clubs and nobody's interesting, it's like what's going on behind the scenes. But Rodrygo, that one-touch passing, that low back lift, that ability to do big things in big games at big moments, we've lacked that. And the big question that I would have going back to you, sorry to take over host duties here, we can only get one of Rodrygo or Eze. What is more important to Arsenal winning the title and why?
I think Eze. Because he knows the league. He's proven in the league. He's versatile. I'm a little bit worried. Like, let's say Odegaard isn't playing that great.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like he trusts Winery, right? Max Dowman is, I mean, he can play right mid. He can play the 10. He's very talented. He can't rely on a 15, about to be 16-year-old. For me, Eze fits the mold to be that creative force up front, you know. And people keep saying, well, he can't play on the left, he can't play on the left. Do you know what I think about Eze, Pedro? I think Eze is a footballer. There's a lot of footballers, but he's a footballer. I think if you put that kid on the left, on the right, in the middle, in the midfield, if you put him right back, left back, he'll play football. I think he's that talented. I think he's that kind of student of the game. Am I way too bright? You know, am I giving him too much credit?
I'm with you. I'm 100%. I totally agree with everything you just said there. The Rodrygo is a very slight player, and you know, kind of like in that Neymar sort of build. And I don't always think that goes down well in the Premier League. And he's on the down a little bit. You know, I like Gyökeres. Say what you want about him. This is a guy that's just smashing it. He's on the up. This isn't a repair job. Carlo Ancelotti did not pick Rodrygo for the Brazil squad or Endrick. He knows the player better than anybody, and he didn't pick him. If Carlo wasn't picking him and wanted him out, and Alonso's gone in and he wants him out, there's something going on there. Those are some elite football minds there. And putting him on 350 grand a week, making him higher paid than Bukayo Saka, I don't like that. Eze, you know what I really like about him? I love those players that have been kind of playing for middling clubs that are really good. Man City were in last year. Steve Parish was shocked that he didn't go, but like those sort of mid-tier players that are like, I'm not fashionable, but if you take a chance on me, the chip on my shoulder is going to be huge and I'm really going to be delivered. Like, think Ian Wright. That's what I think we're getting with Eze. And like sometimes you have to be a little bit practical as well. You're 100% right.
Exactly.
We don't have viable cover for Martin Odegaard. Eze can do that. We don't really need lightning speed out on the left. At 85% of teams play a deep block against us. How often do you see Martinelli running at full pace? Very rare. It's 1v1 situations, and Eze in 1v1 situations is amazing, and he's great around the box. He's creative. His defensive numbers are fantastic, and I didn't realize that. I just think that, and he knows the Premier League. He knows London. He knows the squad. Like, those things go a long way. You know, doesn't have to learn the language, doesn't have to get used to London food. So I am 100% with you. I'm all in on Eze.
He knows Declan. He knows Saka. He knows Madueke. You know, he knows Benjamin. Like, I like having, I don't care what anyone says, I love having a little bit of a British core at my Arsenal in North London, being a North London girl as well. Right, I'll get you out on this. It was really disappointing today also to kind of see that the one thing that we've all been talking about and in live chat, and let us know in the YouTube comments too, is the players. There's new players that have come in, but it looks the same. So it must, Gyökeres, I think, will find his feet. Okay. I believe that he will come good. You can't judge him on this performance coming into this game. But when you look at Mikel, he couldn't crack the Spurs low block. Couldn't do it against Newcastle. Couldn't do it against most Premier League teams. We flourished in the Champions League. A little bit more fluid, teams coming at you. This is, for me, Norgaard, Zubimendi, Gyökeres, and it looks the same, right? So let's just get you out on the big question, which is the title of the show, is the Havertz Gyökeres thing. They say Havertz struggles because there's no creativity behind him. Havertz isn't good enough. We can't ruin Gyökeres if we're going to play the same way that we've been playing. Gyökeres needs delivery. He's a hunter. He's not a gatherer. What's your take on the eventuality of this? You said that you could see Havertz starting against Man United, which he probably will, but how do you see this playing out? And especially with the way Mikel plays.
If Gyökeres isn't the starter by October, then it's a disaster signing. It's a disaster signing. Arteta has said it before. Arsenal fans go through this thing and they all forget it. But I remember when Gabby Jesus joined Arsenal and I was like, he doesn't score goals. And people were like, yeah, but he doesn't actually need to score. And then he was playing for us. And I was like, yeah, he played well, but he doesn't score goals. Yeah, but you're not seeing what he does for the team. I don't care. You need goals. Gyökeres has been bought for one thing and one thing only. Goals, 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 goals. And we lack them. You've got to put him in a team. You've got to make it work. Like, he can't be a bench player at 65 million euros. Kai Havertz has got to make way. Now, whether they do a 4-4-2 or, Kai finds his way out on the left, or Kai is a very versatile player, but Gyökeres needs to be fed, and we need to work out a system that feeds him on the regular, because he gets the ball in the box, he's going to score. I don't think Johnny on the podcast the other day compared him to like Harry Kane. It's like, no. Harry Kane is an incredibly complete player. He can play anywhere. He can drop into 10, he can drop into 8, he can do anything. Gyökeres is a blunt force instrument. He's hard and light. He's not going to get a lot of touches. He's not going to be great in tight spaces. But if he gets a sniff of goal, he's going to score. And we need to work out a way of getting him in front of goal. And my only worry with him is he's a player that scores a lot of goals in transition. And Arsenal aren't that. So we've got to hope that he's a box monster and that he can improve his heading next season. But if the brief was get goals, we got goals by the bucket load. So hopefully it works out. And everybody wants it to work out. And I don't think that Sesko was necessarily a better option. He doesn't have a lot of goals to his name. He's got more of an athletic profile. He's got a higher ceiling, but in 22 goals last year, not great. Ekitike, similar sort of goals, 95 million euros. Don't like that either. So we've got the blunt force instrument. Arteta has to make it work, and that's not Kai Havertz this season. We saw what he did last year. Not good enough. Yeah,
I totally agree. Pedro, you get the last word here. What's your parting shot for the squaddies? Preseason almost done. Man United coming in just 2.5 weeks. Not done in the transfer window for sure. What is your parting shot for the squaddies tonight?
I think that you can be a luxury brand or you can be a value brand. When you go into the transfer market, Liverpool have been dropping luxury moves. They've been adding to their attack, but forgetting about their defense, which is old, potentially looking to exit. Arsenal have gone into the summer and they said, we have lacked a deep squad for a very, very long time. And we're going to spend less, or we're going to buy more players, but spend less money. So we're going to have to take some gambles. I think, regardless of what happens with Isak, that was the right move. Arsenal need a deep squad because we've got a manager that isn't very good at managing them. But if we stay fit next season with this squad and Arteta learns to rotate, we win the Premier League. 100%. I still think that come the end of this window, when that first game of the season starts, Arsenal are going to have the best team in the Premier League. And I think it's going to be a really glorious year this year. I think we're going to get it right. The things that we did last year with a battered squad were incredible. No one will rate them. But getting to the Champions League semi-finals, finishing second despite those injuries was incredible. Now put fit players in there. Now put goal scorers in there. Now put runners in there. And now put a little bit of magic in there. I think we can win the Premier League. I think people are putting too much onus on Liverpool having the perfect season again. And I just don't believe it exists. So I think Arsenal are going to win the Premier League next year.
All right. He said it here. And we'll bookmark this so we can play it in May. Pedro, I'm going to stay on and do a couple of housekeeping items. Thanks for joining, mate. We appreciate you. Make sure you subscribe to the Arsenal Opinion podcast. See you later, Pedro. Take care, mate. Thank you. That's Pedro from the Arsenal Opinion podcast, and you can follow him at the Arsenal Opinion on the old YouTube. And of course, please go follow him on other platforms, social platforms. He is at LeGrove. Never afraid to give his opinions on his show. We appreciate him joining us today. By the way, squaddies, I hope you're all well. I've been watching your conversations in live chat, as I always do. And I always love the comments on YouTube afterwards. We've got some really great replay listeners. And to each and every one of them, I just wanted to say thank you. We passed the 19,000 subscriber mark as well just yesterday. We're getting closer to 20,000. Really appreciate all of the new subscribers. Had some lovely notes and messages lately of people who've just discovered the podcast and have made some really nice comments saying that we're kind of like the undiscovered, talent here, us squaddies and the show that we do. So we appreciate everyone new who's come on board, for giving us a shot, for giving us a chance, for enjoying our conversations, and for all the great comments that you guys have shared with us, either on YouTube or DMs or in your reviews and stuff. And to our Apple and Spotify listeners, thank you so much too. We are growing on both platforms, and it's thanks to you for having a little bit of faith in us. If you didn't know about us, to listen to the show. And we do have great guests who provide superb insights. I love the one-on-one type conversations. I feel it gives the listener more of an engagement and the opportunity to hear what the expert has to say versus, what I have to say a lot of the time as well. So we appreciate that. If you've missed any shows, please go back. We've had some really superb guests over here in the last few weeks. We've had Natalie Sawyer. We've had Kevin Hatchard, Henry Winter. We've had Ben Jacobs on. Of course, Pedro from LeGrove, another great Arsenal podcast. And on Monday, one of my favorites will be back as well. Please look out for it on Monday Madness Drive Time special with Sammy Mockbell. Sammy will be back to talk a little bit about Eze and a whole bunch of other stuff too. So I will also probably be back over the weekend. Keep an eye out on the community page. Keep an eye out on the old socials for when our next live show is. And then next week, I'll do some announcements as well of when to expect the show for the coming season. We'll have a much more set schedule. And I think you guys will appreciate that. I know sometimes it's been up and down with timing, but as I mentioned to you guys always, I love to get great guests on, and sometimes I have to be adaptable with when we broadcast. So I'll always go when these great guests are able to, and I'll try and be as scheduled as I can be next season for some particular shows as well. It would be great, Rich, to get to 20K before the season starts, and then we can keep marching forward from there. It wasn't a great performance in Hong Kong. There's no doubt about that. I'm trying not to overreact. I think it's just because it was Tottenham. If this was AC Milan or any other team in the Premier League, I don't think I would be bothered one iota. I saw improvement in them. I didn't really see improvement in us. So if I feel this way, I can only imagine how Mikel feels. But he does have to be adaptable. He's going to have to be able to elevate himself and evolve himself as a manager this season. We can't go into the season without a cohesive plan B. It feels like we lack that. And when we did have injuries, it was difficult. I know we've brought in some really good players, and they're going to have to make a difference. And when we've lost players, it was tough last season. But at the same time, Mikel, as much as he expects his players to evolve, he's going to have to evolve as well. And when we play teams with a low block, as you new kids on the block call it, we just call it defensive football from the 80s. We never did anything today. We got stifled on the left, we got stifled on the right, and we got stifled through the middle. Did we miss a couple of chances? Sure. That's going to change with Gyökeres. Fresh, he's going to have so much hunger, he's going to want to prove himself a ton, and that's going to be a lot different, I think. But he's going to need to be fed, It's kind of like a growing, when I see my cousins with teenage sons, I'm like, how much do they eat? You need a budget just for their food. They eat. They need to be fed constantly, these growing boys. Gyökeres is going to need food. He's going to need some really good football food. He's going to need to be fed to the feet, in the air. I know some people say, he's not as great in the air as Šeško. This guy is a machine, all right? And we are going to need to get a little bit more creative and think outside the box. Forgive the old cliche, but we're going to have to do that. And I think it's really important that as much as we want our players to evolve and grow, we need our manager to do the same as well. Thanks so much for listening. Make sure you leave your comments in the YouTube section. Make sure you subscribe on our audio platforms. And squaddies, do me a favor, please, because I know damn well you all have an Apple account, all right? Is there anyone on this planet that doesn't have a Spotify or Apple account? I want to urge you, and I'm going to go check, to please leave a review for the show on Apple. If you don't have Spotify, that's fine. But I know everyone on the planet has an Apple account. And guess what? We got through the show today without any audio issues. So I'm very happy about that. Right, I'll stop babbling. I'll stop talking. I love you lots like vodka shots. Make sure you tell your loved ones you love them. Happy Dicky Bow Thursday to everyone. Don't forget Kyle Campbell will be joining us next Wednesday as well. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. At ease, squaddies. At ease. Hope the shirt didn't hurt your eyes too much.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.
Let's just get some of your comments in here at the end. Love you guys.